British Champions Day is in the bag, the finale of the flat season, but not the end of the flat season in the quirky times that we live in this sport. Plenty of talk beforehand about British Champions Day, including on this channel, but the dust has settled now on a brilliant day of racing. We'll start with the first race of the day, where Trushan got my selections off to a solid start with a win, but it certainly was eventful to say the least. Advised at 2-1, an SP of 11-8. Obviously well backed, and 11-8 was about the right price in the end. He has been disappointing or quirky maybe, or not straightforward on his last couple of starts, but he was the best horse in this race. I mean, Trushan was winning this race on Champions Day for the third year in succession, some achievement. It wasn't until the final 10 yards of a 2-mile race where I was actually confident that Trushan and Holly Doyle would actually win. Holly picked up a 3-day ban for a manoeuvre on the first bend, which hampered David Egan on Eldar Eldarov, and more so David Probert on Coltrane. She was drawn not near the rail, and she wanted to be on the rail. There wasn't the space to get there. She was looking over for a few strides, and she saw a small gap and went for it. The stewards didn't like that. She got a 3-day ban for it. The move to grab that rail on the first bend has split opinion, let's be honest. There's been a lot of talk about it. I thought it looked like any other race riding incident we see nearly every day of every week, to be honest. I'm no expert, I've never ridden a horse, but Holly was looking to get to the inside. Egan and Probert not wanting to give up any space or give way. The half gap appeared. She went for it. No problem if you ask me, but like I say, I'm not riding horses at 25 and 30 miles an hour. Like I say, the stewards didn't quite like it. Holly then got another 2 days ban. So 5 days, 2 bans separately from the same race for hampering Coltrane again and James Doyle on the weekend in Wordsworth on the final turn. She was looking for an out and she got herself one. That wasn't particularly pretty, but as they were swinging around the bend, I think it was more pronounced. That move was more pronounced, and it did domino effects on other horses going around that bend. From there on out, it was a Doncaster Cup rematch between Trushan and Coltrane, battling for almost every inch of the final 2 furlongs up Ascot, up the stiff finish at Ascot. Trushan just holding on for his third consecutive win in the race. But like I say, I was never comfortable as a Trushan backer until the line was in sight, to be fair. My day's betting got off to a good start, but it was all very much downhill from there, unfortunately. But just going back, Trushan at 2-1 was just too big, really. It's no surprise, that he's probably regressing, is my comments on Trushan. It's the end of his 6-year-old campaign. But yeah, look, he's won the race for the third time in a row. Much credit there. No Kyprios, no Stradivarius, no Mojo Star, and he's only winning by a head. Let's be honest about it. He'll probably be back next year, but as we all know, he needs soft ground. I questioned the worth of the 3-year-olds going into the race last week. A country mile behind Trushan was the quote from myself, and that turned out to be true, to be fair. Eldar Eldarov and Waterville finished second last and last, respectively. Predictably disappointing. They were a long way off it. I've not heard any excuses or explanations, but they were both a long way off it and finished at the back. Shout out to Coltrane. He's had a belter of a year, to be fair. Second in the Chester Cup way back in May. A Royal Ascot winner in a handicap. A listed race winner at Sandown. Second in the Lonsdale Cup at York. Winner of the Doncaster Cup in front of Trushan. And second on Champions Day behind Trushan. He's only 4. He'll be back next year, but a really massively improver this year, Coltrane, and could well be a serious player next year. The second race of the day, the Champion Sprint, where it was all about one horse, Kinross. Punted from 6-1 into 3-1 SP, was 6-1 Friday-ish, into 3-1 on the day. Absolutely dominated the race. If you backed him, you were never worried at all. He broke well, travelled well behind fellow fancied horses and scooted clear when he was asked to do so at the furlong marker by Frankie Dettori. Won by a comfortable 2 1/4 lengths in the end. Really impressive, Kinross, let's be honest. He's threatened for some time to be a top-notch horse. I mean, remember, this horse went off favourite for the Group 1 Racing Post Trophy 2 or 3 years ago. That was over a mile at the time. Connections have had to wait until his 5-year-old season for him to truly deliver. But God, he's been good this season, and he has delivered. Campaign and ridden perfectly all season by Reg Beckett and Frankie Dettori. He's won 2 Group 1s this month. He's mopped up the 7 furlong division in the UK, which is normally at Group 2 level because there isn't a Group 1. Over 7 furlongs in the UK. He went to Longchamp and won easy as you like there. and he's come here, dropped down to 6 furlong, and he's won easy as you like it. It's just a shame that I've never backed him in my whole life, to be honest. I flagged it last week as an average renewal, maybe below average renewal, to be honest. And there's no talking points other than Kinross. Just a cracking performance by a cracking horse. He could well be back again next season, or he might even be finishing this season at the Breeders' Cup. But yeah, he's just been campaigned really well. And to be honest, everything else in behind was a bit of a muchness, to be honest. All sorts of punters, including me, were keen to take on Emily Upjohn in the Fillies and Mere Stakes, the third race on the day, but she proved us all wrong, to be honest. She stamped a class all over this race. There was a 14-strong field. She made the ones behind her look average and make amends for that very disappointing display in the King George when we last saw her in July. And fair play to the Gosdens, who just kept the faith, gave her a midsummer break after she was poor at Ascot in the King George, and had a bang on for this end of season target. Another Frankie Dettori favourite going in. Back-to-back Group 1s for Frankie on the day, and the Ascot punters were buzzing. Emily Upjohn 3 lengths ahead at the line, 50-1 Thunderkiss in second, 80-1 Insinuendo in third. That probably tells you all you need to know about the rest of the field in what was a wide open race, but she won by far enough to suggest that it was a top class performance, regardless of who filled the places behind her. Will Emily Upjohn be back next year? I hope so. I'm not 100% sure at the moment. On to the next race, where Frankie's run of favourites, or winning favourites, came to an abrupt end in the QE2, as 11-10 favourite In Spiral missed the kick badly and was unable to get back into it on what was a slowly run race. To be fair, she wasn't detached, but she was obviously uncomfortable, and Frankie didn't have her where he wanted her in the first couple of furlongs, simply because she missed the break really badly. She borderline refused to race, actually. She's getting quirkier with age. She's penciled in for a return next season, so we'll see how that quirkiness develops. An interesting case In Spiral. A bit of a hit and a bit of a miss. She hit at Royal Ascot, then she missed in the Falmouth, and then she's hit in the Jacques Lemarrois in France, and then she's missed here. So a patchy form book, should we say, about In Spiral. You can imagine my disappointment in the selection. The Revenant, who quite literally ran his worst race in over 4 years, and it happened to be the day that I backed him. God knows what happened to him. I wasn't happy. He just didn't look like anywhere near landing me any money at any time in the race. I wasn't happy. James Doyle in the QE2 got a soft lead on the supplement of Judumi, and he probably wished he might have held on for a little bit longer until asking for maximum effort, but he doesn't have the luxury of wing mirrors, and it's easy to be clever after the event when people like me talking about it, but it was a soft lead, and yeah, maybe he went a little bit early. The only horse really to get in it from off the pace was the winner, Bayside Boy. He accelerated brilliantly and flew home to win. He was 33-1, almost a forgotten horse on the day. Jadumi held on for third. Modern Games got second. Modern Games was prominent throughout. He grabbed second late on. A big run really from Modern Games, who surely wants it quicker than he got Saturday, and he will be Breeders' Cup bound. A massive career best from Bayside Boy. He had some nice form as a juvenile, this horse, for Roger Varian, finishing behind the likes of Native Trail and Luxembourg reasonably closely, but it's clearly taken a while to hit top gear this season. And what a turn of foot it was to win on Saturday. It was visually very, very impressive. Hopefully we see him again next season, possibly on the international stage before that, but he does want soft ground, this Bayside Boy. On to the main event. If you thought we'd had an eventful day so far at Champions Day, Baaeed went and did pretty much the unthinkable and got beat up 1-4, a deflating moment all around the track, really. The place fell pretty silent. I was lucky enough to be there. It became clear in the final furlong that Baaeed's unbeaten record was going to come to an end, and yeah, just very disappointment all round, really. It was a shame. I, like many others, wanted him to win. It just didn't happen. Was it the soft ground? Did he really not stay 10 furlongs despite winning Juddmonte? Probably a bit of both. He ran on soft ground on Champions Day last year and won over a mile. But yeah, that Juddmonte win, although it was impressive on quicker ground, do we think a lot of the form? Mishriff, I've already been saying this year, he's not as good as people think he is, or his rating suggests he is. So yeah, maybe he was flattened a little bit by that Juddmonte performance. But yeah, the only way I could describe Baaeed on Saturday is he just looked like a normal horse for probably the first time in his career. He just didn't pick up with that instant turn of foot like he has done before. He angled out from behind the leaders coming into the straight. He just didn't pick up and scoot away like he normally does. William Maggis and Jim Crowley were crestfallen, absolutely gutted, but fair play to both of them, who offered their time to anyone who wanted an interview. And very honourable in defeat. Moving our attentions to the winner, Baaeed. If you'd have said on June the 1st that Baaeed would go on and win the Champion Stakes in October, not many would have argued with you. Certainly not me. He looked fantastic when winning a Group 3 at Sandown at the end of May. Then went off favourite for the Prince of Wales's at Royal Ascot and finished second. Also went off favourite for the Coral Eclipse and finished 5th of 6 in that one. That was disappointing. He ran perfectly well at Royal Ascot behind State of Rest on a brilliant ride and brilliant training performance by the Irish connections there. And he was second, but he was disappointing in the Eclipse Baaeed. Both of those races were on quick ground, and he was given a 105-day break before the Champion Stakes on Champions Day, and he's duly redeemed himself. Another fantastic training performance, you've got to say that. Away from the obvious Baaeed angle, it was good to see Baaeed win. I think he's a very good horse. He could be top class. He is back next year to prove it. He does need soft grounds. Hats off to Richard Kingscote, to be fair, who's ended this season with a Derby and a Champion Stakes win to his name. Both from Sir Michael Stout, top fella Richard Kingscote, really like him. Adayar ran second in the Champion Stakes behind Baaeed, about right on form, but he isn't as good as what he was last year, to be by the looks of it. He has had a disjointed season, and he is another who returns next year, Adayar, as a 5-year-old. My Prospero was in third, ran a massive race, career best, clearly took a leap forward since we last saw him 3 months ago. When he was last seen in France, he actually unseated the rider after the line in France, Tom Marquand. He's still likely race this, My Prospero. That was only his 6th career start. He's very interesting going forward next year, and Tom Marquand is on record as absolutely loving him. So the flat season is pretty much over. It's all soft ground and unreliable results from here on out, in my mind. I'll certainly be having a look and flagging the best value where I can in the coming weeks, with decent meetings at Doncaster and Newmarket still to come. As for the punting this year, as we know, it's all 1 point win or 1 point each way. There's been 136.75 point stake this year, believe it or not. We've only returned 86.1 returns. So yes, we're in a loss this year. Unfortunately, it's wiping out the 34 points profit I made last year. So it's not all bad if you take the channel as a whole over the last couple of years, but disappointing nonetheless. We'll keep giving it a go. Thanks for watching. Thanks for the comments, and we'll be back soon with more horses and darts chat on the channel.